Hello, I'm Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the New Year's rarity machine that has gone live in North America. So, historically speaking, seasonals such as New Year's, Christmas, etc. tend to be notoriously poor and lackluster events to actually roll in. And the reason for that is because many of the cards featured have been around since the beginning of pad. Like, they could be like 7 years old, and Gung-Ho does remove them from time to time, but we still have 4-star cards that populate this machine that give essentially zero value to even a modestly developed box. And because of those reasons, it makes it quite challenging to justify rolling in these events because so many of the bottom rarity cards are absolutely terrible. But on the flip side, for this New Year's event, while that still holds true today, like there is tons of garbage at the bottom, there are actually quite a few strong, powerful cards at the higher rarities, but unfortunately some of them you actually have to roll to acquire. You can't IAP them, you can't monster exchange for them, but there are several prizes that you can directly monster exchange for, and it might be worthwhile doing so instead of taking that gamble in trying to play with the rarity machine and getting another jaune de crap. But either way, I'm going to be going through each of the cards individually to give you a better idea of what to expect. So the pros for this New Year's event is that there are actually several valuable cards here. Normally seasonals have maybe 1, maybe 2 useful cards. This time I feel like there are at least 5 cards that are actually worthwhile, and the 8 and 9 stars can be monster exchanged for. Unfortunately, all of the good cards are 7, 8, 9 stars, so it's going to be challenging to acquire them if you're going to be rolling. Monster exchanging will obviously have a cost associated with it. And the thing is, I feel the bottom rarity 4, 5, and really even 6 stars, they're basically all lackluster. An account that has even modest amount of cards in it will find little value in actually acquiring these, and they will constitute the vast majority of the rolling pool, and only the top rarity cards actually have a weapon assist. So the value of dupes does definitely decrease, and to be honest, most of your rolls will be disappointing. And for the rankings, I feel like there are several highly notable cards, but unfortunately these 5 here are all from the topper, like the higher rarity, so it's going to be quite difficult to actually acquire them. And if you want, here are the 4 and 5-star cards, and they all populate the very bottom. So these are where most of your rolls are going to be. If I threw in the 6 stars, they would both result in the same spot. They'd also be in C. So basically 4, 5, and 6 are all pretty crappy overall. But let's start looking at the new and actually useful cards. So the first new card is New Years Lagera. And New Years Lagera has obviously big stats due to their higher rarity, but they have solid personal damage. They have 777 combo, they have a large attack stat, and they now have passive damage through these enhanced combos. Now, these awakenings, they function as a way to layer in passive damage for a given team. The way it works is if you match 2 or more combos of the matching color, you gain increasing amounts of damage based on the awakenings. So in the case of Lagera, if you match 2 light and 2 dark, you obviously tap into higher damage for each of those respective colors. But I feel that mixing and matching these colors can be a little problematic unless you're actually able to build a team that has many light and many dark cards. Because let's say if it was only light enhanced combos, well, you build your whole team light, everyone's dealing significantly more damage. So I feel like it's a little bit of a drawback, but on the bright side, their leader skill has synergy and you want to actually populate with light and dark cards. So for their 3-turn active skill, which is easy to inherit over top of, they are able to create 1 turn of Jammer and Poison Skyfalls. So this will overwrite any existing debuff, so that can be a little helpful there. And then it will also change wood and jammers to light, and then water poisons to dark orbs. So basically the idea is once you keep kind of like somewhat cycling this active skill, you're able to convert all of those hazards into useful orbs on a 3-turn cooldown, along with actually being able to convert non-hazards to those respective colors. So as an orb changer goes, it's quite powerful, but of course these hazard skyfalls are problematic. They're not necessarily going to help you if they stick around on the board, and at the same time, quite a few spawns tend to interact negatively with hazards. If hazards appear, they might do a much larger attack, so that is problematic. As a leader, New Year's Lagera features massive health. It has 2.5 times health for light and dark, so dual leaders is 6.25 times health. You're going to be incredibly bulky, but of course, any of these super high health cards tends to not have any RCV multiplier, so a healing solution is required. and gravities are a problem. If you get hit by a gravity, all your health goes away. If you get hit by 100% plus gravity, you die regardless of how high your health is. So that is obviously going to be a bit of a problem, because if you're playing through something like, say, World of Carnage 1 / Sure Realm, Raphael's 150% gravity is going to be problematic unless you have cards to obviously counter that. But outside of the big bulk health and lack of damage reduction and healing, they increase combos by 2 when matching 2 light combos, and they give auto follow-up attack at 2 dark combos. And you also receive your full attack multiplier with 8 or more combos. So there are quite a few different moving pieces in here, but if you can have 2 dark and 2 light, which might be somewhat doable with their active skill, especially if you have 2 leaders, you can have a steady flow of all these bonuses, and these are high multipliers. 400 times attack is high, plus 4 combos with dual leaders and auto follow-up attack is quite powerful. It also means that 10 combo awakening cards are much easier to proc, and if you're matching multiple light, multiple dark combos, well, the damage increases via these enhanced combo awakenings. So obviously the main drawbacks as a leader is, well, gravities are horrible. You need to dedicate something to healing, and their active skill with the hazards can potentially be problematic. And the last notable thing I like to say is they don't have a VDP. And with this large attack set and large offensive might, you're kind of wasting it, so to speak. So you need to rely on something else to provide that void damage penetration. And perhaps the largest downside to Ladroa is not necessarily the card itself, but because their weapon assist is much stronger, and I feel like their weapon assist is worth pursuing. So Ladroa's weapon assist gives you 2 team health, a skill boost, and tape resist. So it looks so similar to Fagan Rai's weapon, and that's because instead of cloud resist, you have tape. So we know Fagan Rai's weapon is one of the best weapon assists in the game. And while cloud resist is superior to tape in most cases, I feel, it is still beneficial to have tape. You can probably find cloud resist some other way. Maybe you just use both weapons on a given team. But what sets this weapon assist apart is the active skill tied to it. And this active skill gives you 2 turns of 75% damage reduction and a board changer. So your mono light and mono dark teams are obviously going to like the board changer, but this damage reduction can also function as effective skill boost. When you pop 75% damage reduction, you have 4 times effective health, and there's a good chance you can stall and tank through the first floor if you have suddenly 4 times more health than you normally do. A meaningful way to add significant amounts of effective skill boost onto a given team and the bulk from team health. And this damage reduction plus board changer has merits later on in the dungeon. You're always going to get value out of a shield or a board changer. It's never going to go bad. But what I want to draw attention to is that in World of Carnage 2 / Ruler of Hell's Hall, damage reduction is vital because there are several large unavoidable hits. The big red ogre hits for 600,000. You're probably going to get hit by that. Gills, after you knock him down below 50%, hits you for more than 600,000 while disabling your awakenings. So this shield is going to be invaluable. It'll let you survive those mechanics while also helping you transform earlier. So there's no real downside to this weapon. And in all honesty, if I got Ladroa, I'd probably tinker around with them in their base form and be like, yay, cool new stuff. But then I would convert to a weapon assist quite quickly after because it just has so much value built into it. Next is New Year's Reach, and New Year's Reach is still one of the strongest rainbow subs in the game, who has also been buffed as a leader, but I'm going to focus on their sub potential first. So if we look at their awakenings, they have 777 combo along with a large attack stat, so that's great, and VDP is not necessary for rainbow teams because they have other ways to solve voids. And then in addition to that, they have 3 skill charges. 3 skill charges is massive because every time you match all colors, you are able to grant 3 personal haste to the owning card, which means every turn you could potentially charge up 4 turns worth of active skills. So basically that means that 30 turn cooldown could be potentially ready in 8 if everything goes according to plan. And this is one of the most amazingly strong active skills for current content because it gives you a full board unlock and a full rainbow board. Yay, that's nice. But that's not the main effect that we want. The main effect we want is 3 turns of damage and 3 turns of attribute or color absorb cancellation. Damage absorb and color absorb are always present in endgame dungeons. Every single one is basically going to have at least one of those. And if you don't have a way to counter damage absorb at least, you probably can't clear a dungeon. So you need to have this active skill. And we have this active skill tied to a card that has strong personal damage and can charge up quickly. But the fun doesn't stop there. They can gain any killer latent, so they're going to take machine killer. They can also gain a machine killer super awakening, and now they deal stupendous stupendously high amounts of personal damage against machine spawns, which run rampant throughout Shura Realm / World of Carnage 1. So you have a card that has a key and invaluable active skill, huge personal damage, and an active that is also ready regularly. But because it lasts for 3 turns, you have much more wiggle room. Because the Manoas at the end have color absorb and the green one can have damage absorb as well, you have to take multiple turns to kill it. It's incredibly rare to actually one-shot the final form of Manoa. Like, it's just really not going to happen unless you get damage cap across many cards and many sub-attributes. So you're going to have to grind against them. And even killing them in 2 turns might be a little difficult. And now that we have a 3-turn window, it becomes much easier to deal with. Most teams can kill Manoas within 3 turns, I would say. And especially if New Year's Reach is sitting on the team, you have someone who's hitting incredibly hard all the time. So you have an invaluable active skill. You have the big damage. It's kind of hard to find fault in New Year's Reach as a sub. And remember, these Latents can be swapped. They can have any killer Latent. They could switch to Devils. Let's say there's a dungeon that has lots of Devils instead. Well, now you have a huge Devil damage dealing option. Like, New Year's Reach has great staying power because as a sub, it's going to be hard to pass them as long as damage and color absorb remain relevant and common mechanics. As a leader, their leader skill is quite powerful. They have big multipliers. They have big health, big recovery, big attack, and they have damage reduction. Of course, they are restricted to Devil Balance, which is okay, but the bigger drawback is they lack extra zest. They don't have bonus combos, they don't have auto follow attack. Like, you don't necessarily need those, but they make a big difference. And one thing that Rainbow teams do have an advantage of is they can tap into a lot of 10 combo awakening cards because many Rainbow teams have built-in combos. So New Year's Reach unfortunately doesn't grant that, so it might be a little harder to mix in those cards. So I'm not going to discredit them saying they're a bad leader. They are still incredibly strong. They can definitely clear plenty of content, but their main value, I feel, is as a sub. And generally speaking, subs tend to last longer in terms of power creep compared to leaders because leaders are relatively easy to make stronger. Just give them better multipliers and the leader's probably better as a general statement. Whereas subs, it can be hard to push this out because it's just such a nice active skill. New Year's Reach does have a weapon, but I wouldn't even consider it unless you have many New Year's Reaches, or at least 2 to begin with, because the opportunity cost of not using their base form is so high that I wouldn't even consider this. And remember, many people will hopefully have got Fagin Rise Weapon Assist through the special event exchange, and that Weapon Assist provides Cloud, and that's just one of the best Cloud solutions. Now we come to the 8 stars. So New Year's Yomi is a card that I feel like was strong at one point, but has fallen out of favor due to the fact that they've become a bit more as a generalist, and transforming cards and other utility cards are just better. So in their non-Revo form, they have some personal damage, some bonus passive damage. They can get super blind resist. They have L, like they do a little bit of everything, and their active skill enhances all orbs. It reduces Awoken Binds by 5 turns, and then 3 turns of bonus movement time on an 8-turn cooldown. There's not really many good effects. There's 3 different effects, but the only truly great effect I feel is the Awoken Bind clear, because that's a relevant mechanic that pops up all the time. And clearing that is definitely helpful, but at the same time, it's an 8-turn cooldown, and it's not generating orbs, it's not producing many other beneficial effects. So I feel like as a utility card, they're okay. They do a bit of stuff, but they're not excelling. They don't have massive skill boosts, they don't have big enough personal damage. They do give super blind, but something like Diao Chan gives 4 skill boosts and super blind, and a better active skill, I feel, overall, with a lower cooldown. So New Year's Yomi doesn't really provide enough, and their Revo form still doesn't change that. The Revo form has wonderful super awakenings, but you can't take all of them. So you either get 4 skill boosts, or you get more personal damage, or you get super poison resist. All of them are helpful. So it gives a bit of flexibility there, but this active skill has not changed. It's still problematic. And they do have the new enhanced combos, but it's light and dark. And as I mentioned with Ladua, I dislike the idea of mixing colors because you have to build a team purely of those two. And while New Year's Yomi's leader skill does have to match light and dark, their sub potential, I think, like their leadership potential is too inconsistent. So as a sub, they could have been a nice passive damage solution, but they're mixing colors. If it was too light, it would have been much more noticeable by comparison. And this active skill is underwhelming. Like, I'm going to compare them to Christmas Gremory, and I don't think that's a far stretch to compare because Christmas Gremory is a seasonal, same rarity, but they have a much better active skill. They have a lower cooldown, they actually generate orbs, they clear binds and awoken binds, and they also reduce unable to match orb effects. So a much stronger active on a lower cooldown, and even though Christmas Gremory has worse personal damage, who cares? We don't need personal damage on every single card unless they are like stupendously high. Christmas Gremmies oftentimes on teams with Gillian, Grandis, Sena, who hit way harder. So it doesn't matter if one card is a little less. And their passive damage will definitely help bring the whole team up. And New Year's Omi is just not keeping abreast with that. So I feel like they could have been better, but they just didn't get enough, so to speak. And as a leader, these are nice multipliers, but this 84% damage reduction will not occur if you cannot match light and dark. So it kind of almost reminds me of Sena in the sense that you need to have 2 specific colors to get your damage reduction. But Sena has the benefit of some health multiplier, so you could possibly tank a hit, but the bigger benefit is their active skill actually generates orbs and it creates a system. New Year's Yomi does not generate orbs. They're not going to help produce those orbs to save yourself. And if you don't have those orbs, you are going to die. And I don't think there's any true systemable option which is going to make light and dark orbs often enough that really can make this work, I feel. So there's just too many hurdles to overcome with New Year's Yomi. Like, they were on the cusp of being good or great, but instead they just fell a little short. And that's kind of sad because I do own a New Year's Yomi and I did used to use them and they were helpful at the time when there were less viable options to choose from. But now we have more things we can draw upon. For New Year's Canna, I think she's still terribly underwhelming. Reason for that is her offensive awakenings are so low. Like, yes, you have TPAs, but any TPA card mixes other offensive awakenings because TPA is too inefficient. It provides 1.5 times. If you have TPAs, you usually have like 7 combos or attack well below 50% or something else to make it much more noticeable. Like, we look at Raijin. Raijin has 777 combo and a bunch of TPAs. Way more personal damage and way more base attack as well. So New Year's Canna can't even function as a damage solution. So all I feel like they really are is a 5 effective skill boost card because their active skill generates haste and cloud resist. And that's really it. They're not really providing much else. They don't have personal damage. They don't do, like, their active skill is okay, but it's not really something you're going to really desiring necessarily. So kind of like a glamorized skill boost card. And as a leader, you do have big damage reduction, but you need to match 5 hard orbs and a cross. And we're kind of going back to the New Year's Yomi argument. Their leader skill their active from the leaders do not generate hearts. So how are we going to get a nice steady system of heart orbs appearing? That's going to be definitely problematic. So I feel like as a whole, like, the numbers look nice on paper, but it's not going to be viable because it's going to be way too inconsistent. New Year's Kami provides some passive damage, but I feel like they have far too much overlap with Christmas Gremory. I know, like, comparing it to other cards might seem a little frustrating, but when you think about it, that's kind of what we have to do. There are limited subspaces available, and Christmas Gremory surpasses Kami in basically every metric. Kami has passive damage via Rose, Gremory gives enhanced combos. I'm going to go with enhanced combos being stronger overall in this case because there's not that many Rose. New Year's Kami can have personal damage of 10 combo, 7 combo, but like I said, for your mono fire teams, you don't necessarily need to have excess damage. Your Sena, Gillian, Grandis are going to be hitting harder anyways, and Kami only has 2 skill boosts, so it's going to be a little harder to transform. Her active skill is still strong though. Like, you do get to change the bottom row to hearts, recover 30% of max health, remove all regular binds, and reduce unable to match orb effects by full. The main drawback is it doesn't clear awoken binds. And awoken binds tend to be much more dangerous than regular binds. So I feel like the biggest problem with Kami is you're not clearing these awoken binds. It makes it harder to justify slotting her on a team because these kind of like cleric utility roles often deal with all of those mechanics. Christmas Gremory at least clears awoken binds as well. If we think about other cards like, say, Goldfish Girl, they also clear binds and awoken binds. So like these utility-based clerics, they need to clear awoken binds, and Kami doesn't, and that's definitely a problem. You most certainly could utilize her, but I feel like she's just less efficient by comparison. So she is nice, but she is definitely outpaced by other options. And now we come to Years Artemis, who is actually an incredibly exciting card. Not in her base form. Like, yes, her base form does have bigger TPA damage. It has a big attack set and that 10 combo, but there's nowhere truly great to utilize them on. It's hard to hit 10 combos with TPAs for Wood, and their new evolved form is way better by comparison. So I would just honestly look there, because her new evolved form is an incredibly strong leader. It's going to give Wood a wonderfully powerful option. So if we look at their awakenings, they have 777 combo with a monstrous attack stat. So that is something beneficial to keep in the back of your mind. They can have up to 5 skill boosts, or gaining a TP if you need to leverage more damage. But 5 skill boosts with big damage is huge, along with team passive damage with 2 enhanced wood combos. So if dual Artemis, you are going to have massive amounts of additional damage from matching 2 wood combos, which is something what you need to do for their leader skill. But looking at their active skill first, it gives you 2 turns of attribute absorb cancellation. So that is helpful. It also changes fire to wood. So an orb changer, always going to be useful. And then it removes all awoken binds. You could have stopped at attribute absorb orb changer. That would have been fine at 10 turns. And now we throw in awoken binds. This feels like a transforming style active skill. It's incredibly loaded for 10 turns, and it doesn't need to transform. So New Year's Artemis can actually function as a stellar sub as well, but at this point in time, she's also a tremendously strong leader. So as a leader, you need to use wood cards, and you'll have flat 4 times health and 4 times recovery. That's great, that's bulk, that's healing, and you also can tap into 25% damage reduction when you match 5 or more combos. You always can match 5 or more combos. So you're going to have 4 times health and 43.75% damage reduction all the time. So stalling is viable, and you can withstand incredibly large hits. And then for your attack multiplier, you have to match 2 wood combos. So 6 wood orbs. So that's not impossible to do when you think about it. Row or blob-based teams need the same amount. So you need 2 wood combos, and then you get your attack multiplier, and you also get the auto follow attack. So remember, you can stall. You just need to match 5 combos, you get damage reduction, and you have big health, big recovery. And then when you want to kill stuff, match 2 wood combos and other combos, and you deal big damage. Because remember, Artemis hit hard. With the enhanced wood combos, they're even adding more damage with dual leaders. And the biggest weakness, I feel, is a lack of VDP. So you have to rely on something like, say, like Albert, maybe Zila not. I don't know. But the idea is you need to find some sort of VDP solution. But depending on the content you are playing through, some things like, say, Shura 1/World of Carnage have lower VDP requirements. And you might be able to just hit damage cap a bit more regularly if you have enough different wood combos matched, because remember, they're going to be adding passive damage with those enhanced combos for that VDP card if you make the VDP and other wood combos. So that can definitely be quite helpful overall. So as a whole, I think she's a stellar, strong leader who will become an incredibly powerful sub in the future. Right now, I feel like dual pairing would be quite efficient. You don't need to hit 10 combos desperately, and you preserve like your bulk, and you have the extra passive damage with those enhanced combos with dual leaders. Things can change, and remember, once she does get power crept as a leader, she's going to become a valuable sub, because 5 skill boosts with a helpful active and big damage and team damage is really hard to compete against. And for the 7-star cards, we now come to Enola. So Enola is unable to be acquired any other way aside from rolling, and that's definitely going to be a definite con for her. Same with New Year's Horse. They're valuable cards that you have to roll. You can't exchange or even IAP for them. But Enola is essentially a wood Alatu. She has 7 effective skill boosts with 4 natural skill boosts and a 3-turn delay that also has a board changer with hearts. She also has super poison resist and some passive damage through a 7 combo, a VDP. She has team damage with the enhanced wood combo and L. She's bringing a lot of things to the table. So as a mono wood sub, I feel like she's quite spectacular. She's giving you a board changer, big skill boost, lots of utility, some personal damage, L. Like, there's a lot of great things going on in this card. And it's going to be obviously a wonderful thing to acquire, and as a leader, she's still not bad. She actually has the exact same parameters as New Year's Artemis, but the reason why she's not as strong of a leader is because her activation requirement is harder. You get 25% damage reduction when you match 2 or more wood combos, so you don't always have damage reduction, but your full attack multiplier requires you to have 5 or more connected wood orbs. So you kind of ideally need to have 5 plus 3 to really shine. You don't technically need to have 2 wood combos for your attack multiplier, but it's damage reduction. And if you do pair with like New Year's Artemis, you need 2 wood combos anyway, so you have to have 8 total, not 6. Much more orb hungry by comparison, much less consistent. Still a strong leader, but not as easy to use compared to New Year's Artemis. So essentially think of it this way. You're a wood Alatu, and you bring a little bit more to the table because I prefer her awakenings compared to Alatu. New Year's Kenji is an orb skin card, but I don't think they're necessarily worth pursuing. They have reasonable personal damage. They have 777 combo, okay attack stat. They can get potentially 4 skill boosts, and their active skill gives you a 6-turn cooldown that gives you 2 turns of 30% damage reduction with the ability to generate 3 fire, light, and hearts. So you're kind of like, I'm trying to create a systemish team, but I'm not going to be able to make it really work all the time. Their leader skill gives you fixed 9 seconds of orb movement time. So that means you cannot be delayed, but it also means if you can't match orbs that well, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. And they also give their full attack multiplier when hitting 8 or more combos, but you get damage reduction when matching 3 or more colors, or 3 or more elements, I should say, because it's 2 colors plus heal potentially, and increase your combo count by 2 with the same requirement. So it's quite easy to hit 8 or more combos. You match a total of 4 combos on the board, it goes up to 8, assuming there were 3 different elements. So you can proc your damage reduction quite easily, and you do have some extra damage reduction from their active skill. The main problem is, I don't feel like this is a truly magical leader skill. Like, it is nice, but it's nowhere near as competitive compared to the current endgame leaders. And the thing is, if a leader is not debuting at the very top of the power creep, they are going to fall down very fast because new things will get released and many new things will probably push them down. So it's not to say that he's weak, but it's just that they're not necessarily surpassing other options available. The active skill can't be systemable. Like Sena, Yux, Feral, one reason why they're so strong is that you can just abuse their active skills and constantly activate, constantly dish out massive damage by comparison. So I feel like Kenji is a reasonable leader. It definitely can work for a good chunk of content, but they're just not going to be as competitive compared to other options available. New Year's Bale is also an orb skin card, but I don't recommend purchasing them. Their active skill can give you a small 3-turn Awoken Bind Clear, whoop-de-doo, and then you will lock all orbs. So locking all orbs counters spinners, and there are only occasional places where you really need to overcome truly obnoxious spinners, and you could possibly create or build teams to do that. There are other ways to do it. There are some farmable options that can lock the board as well, so I feel like New Year's Bale is more so like, if you get it, great. You don't want to invest in farmable cards, but I don't think it's necessarily worth pursuing, of course. And their leader skill gives you reasonable multipliers, but you have to match 4 or more colors. Like, that's okay. Like, it's nothing special. Like I said, these are not magical multiplier numbers. It doesn't give bonus combos, doesn't give auto follow attack, nothing truly outstanding. Their awakenings are a bit of all over the place. They do a bit of everything, but no true specialization. When I see guard break in VDP, I get a little sad because it thinks, well, if we're going to be guard breaking for Rainbow, we're not making VDP, but monocolor isn't going to guard break. Just wasteful awakenings that are kind of scattered all over the place. No true focus or dedication. A generalist is weaker than a specialist in pad. New Year's Horse is definitely one of the stronger cards here, and it's not because of their original form, which is okay, it's because of their new pixel form. So their new pixel form gives you 4 skill boosts. They have modest personal damage, but they also have those 2 enhanced fire combos, so passive damage, yay, your hard-hitting cards hit even harder. And their active skill is a 2-turn cooldown, so very easy to inherit over top of, but with this active skill, you get to unlock all orbs, which is a huge boon for Sena teams because their biggest weakness is dealing with locked orbs. So you unlock those. You also have an L awakening to unlock them passively as well. But then you also get a small RCV and a small attack buff. And these small buffs are probably not going to make a huge difference in your own personal performance, but they can be used to overwrite any existing debuff. And this is significant because debuffs are obviously quite apparent in harder content, and being able to overwrite them on a regular basis while simultaneously unlocking the board is meaningful. But you can also inherit something over top of it, so like a higher impact active. So let's say you inherit Red Shelling Forward. Bam, you have 4-turn delay plus a skill boost to that thing. So now this New Year's Horse becomes 5 skill boosts with the weapon assist plus 4-turn delay. So a 9 effective skill boost card. Pretty magical, pretty easy to have enough skill boost to actually trigger it on floor 1. Or whatever high impact active skill you need, you can stick them on here. I love low cooldown cards for this reason. And it gives you great flexibility on your mono fire teams. They will help you transform. So like your Gillian, your Sena teams have more flexibility because with these buffs, you could possibly have different cards on your team. You can mix and match a bit more. And I like that flexibility. Like, even though I do have quite a solid Sena team and Gillian team, it would still be useful to have New Year's Horse because it might open up some new possibilities I couldn't have necessarily pursued. And I personally find that meaningful. And the biggest drawback of New Year's Horse is, well, it's difficult to acquire. You have to roll it, and I would not recommend rolling in this event. And then their leader skill, despite the fact that it has nice numbers, all the cards have to be pixel. You have no damage reduction. You're going to fall flat to gravities. Like, there are stronger leaders available, and pixel cards, generally speaking, are not the greatest, or there's just not enough of them to truly populate, I feel, a meaningful team. New Years Yamato has 2 Dragon Killers and potentially, or really more so, they have potentially 6 skill boosts. So they're basically just a 6 skill boost card. Their Awakenings don't really do much else. If you play them in co-op, you get more stats, but you lose skill boosts. If you use them in solo mode, you get skill boosts, but nothing else really. So maybe for like certain farming compositions, you might want to have those extra skill boosts, but at the same time, I feel like Yamato is definitely an underwhelming card. Like, we have many farmable options that get to 5 skill boosts, and maybe that 6th one might make or break a certain team composition, but at the same time, I feel like it's not truly necessary. And again, hard to acquire, or more so, you'd have to roll for it, and rolling is not ideal. New Year's Capri does a bit of several useful things. They have team bulk, they have meaningful personal damage with a 10 and 7 combo, and they have 4 skill boosts, and they do a bit of useful stuff. Their active skill gives you 2 turns of color absorb counter, and then 2 turns of bonus combos, and 2 turns of increased movement time. And it's on a 12-turn cooldown. The problem with this active skill is it doesn't really quite do that many meaningful stuff compared to New Year's Artemis. New Year's Artemis has a 10-turn cooldown, and same 2 color absorb cancellation, but it gives an orb changer and full awoken bind clear. And I will take that any day of the week compared to combos and movement time. New Year's Artemis active skill is way stronger by comparison. So New Year's Capri, like, it's still reasonable, but at the same time, I can't really fathom a situation where I'd want to use them, because the only true meaningful aspect is the color absorb counter. So, like, you have a body that gives some health, has some personal damage, but they don't really necessarily counter many mechanics. They don't give resist, they don't have any extra zest to their active skills. So, like, I feel like it's a reasonable card, but I don't think there's any truly meaningful place to utilize them on where you wouldn't want to choose another card by comparison. Like, we're getting to the point where obviously things are competitive, and if you're not surpassing most of the options, you're just going to be an average card. New Year's Ganesha, their main appeal is their leader's skill. Their leader's skill gives you 4 times coins, and basically you can just get rich super fast. And the main drawback is coins have so little value. Like, right now, there's a gift dungeon where you can pair with a New Year's Ganesha, bring my own regular Ganesha, and I got like 168 million coins. And this is going to happen for many days, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not, I could be mistaken, I don't know. But the point is, coins have so little value. There's nowhere to spend them on. Most players who've been playing for a while are sitting at displayed coin cap. And there's nowhere to dump them on. There's no coin dungeons anymore. There's no like big multi-million purchases you can make. There's nowhere to spend coins. So this is a unique and valuable active skill in the sense that no one else can do it, but it doesn't have a meaningful benefit. Maybe if Gung-Ho releases something that you can dump hundreds of millions of coins into, New Year's Ganesha will gain significantly more value. But right now, it's kind of like sitting awkwardly saying, like, I do something better than anyone else, but it's not necessarily something that's truly meaningful. But again, it is nice to have, like, a brand new account. I guess a brand new account can definitely find a New Year's Ganesha friend and just skyrocket in coins and never have to worry about swapping inherits around. Now we come to the 6-star cards, which are going to be a very sad downhill spiral, so to speak. So for New Year's Leyland, both forms have a 10 combo twice. So 25 times personal damage, but the problem is that's kind of all they really do. Yes, you do have some orb enhances, but they don't have a VDP. They don't have many skill boosts. They have actually quite low attack. Their active skill does not actually produce a meaningful effect. A generic vanilla board changer without hearts is not special. It doesn't counter mechanics. It's not accomplishing much. So you're basically just a damage stick. But as I mentioned, mono fire teams have so many strong hard-hitting cards anyways, and she's not helping you actively transform. She's not countering mechanics. So I feel like it is nice, but she's not going to be utilized anywhere truly efficient to be meaningful. So I feel like even if I had a New Year's Leyland, I wouldn't actually utilize them because there's nowhere meaningful to use them. And with all that damage and no VDP, it does obviously go to waste as well. New Year's Anime has 2 co-op boosts, so they could potentially be a reasonable button base, but I feel like button builds are starting to go a bit out of style just because the farming, like the dungeons we farm nowadays, have way too much health to button through. We don't have like a couple 100,000 health spawns. They're many million now. So like kind of swipe based teams with like attack well below 50% seems to be a bit more popular now. It's like, at least that's what I've found with my own experience lately. So like co-op boost button bases are nice, but we have quite a few of them already, and if you don't use them in co-op, they have underwhelming stats. If you use them in co-op, well, their stats are still like they're okay. Like, it's nothing magical, I feel. So I feel like if you have other double co-op boost cards in your box, they're not necessarily going to change the way you approach content. New Years SPika has the ability to generate 2 columns of orbs. So 2 columns of orbs is great for farming builds, and if you are utilizing someone like Super Reincarnated Hino, who gives you massive auto follow-up attack damage. Actually, 2 Hinos is 3 million each, so 6 million total auto follow-up attack damage when you match any 5 orbs. So this double column allows you to potentially match 2 columns super fast, like unmatch one of them, solve the one instantly, do 6 million auto follow-up attack damage. Do it again. It's useful, but at the same time, the value goes down if you have more double row makers or other double column makers or anything that makes lots of orbs and fixed patterns. The value of SPika obviously goes down. But remember, utilizing things on Hino could be meaningful. New Year's Mitsuki, I feel like, is a budget solution for Shura Realm. If you have no other healing solution available, they can help restore your health because their health stat, or RCV stat, plus the enhanced Heart of Awakenings. They have some machine killers, so they do actually a tiny bit of damage against relevant spawns, but at the same time, I feel like they're just really a budget solution. If you have other things like Amaterasu, use Amaterasu over them, no questions asked. New Year's Hanzo is a disaster. They have 2 Dragon Killers, and they can't take Dragon Killer Latents. So we have many triple killer cards, or at least double killer with the ability to take the corresponding Latents. So Hanzo can't do that. There's no purpose to him. Like, we have so many other dragon killing solutions. I can't fathom a reason why they would be utilized. And now we come to 4 stars, and Joan de Crap. Maybe auto heal shenanigans you could do, but like, I don't understand why this card still exists. They are incredibly old. They don't accomplish anything relevant. Joan de Crap. And now New Year's Tengu. New Year's Tengu is essentially farmable Tengu with 2 killers that don't actually help because they have a abysmally low attack stat. Those killers are not going to provide meaningful damage. So you're basically just a 4 skill boost card with a skill bind resist, but the farmable Tengu does the exact same thing. And we have other farmables that give 5 skill boosts. So I don't know why this still exists in the rare machine. Tengu is basically like 7. I think Tengu's been basically around since I've been playing pads. So that's 600 plus days. I don't understand why this is still existing in this event. You're basically rolling a farmable for 5 magic stones. It feels a little insulting, but I can't say they're absolute garbage because 4 skill boosts with a low cooldown is still not bad, but at the same time, I could have gotten Orpharian. So, do I plan to roll in my dream rolls? The answer is I do not plan to roll. The bottom rarity, as you just heard, is abysmally disappointing. Like, 4, 5, and 6 star cards have basically no value whatsoever in a modestly developed box. They won't bring anything to the table, and they're going to comprise the vast majority of the rolls. But at the same time, it's always nice and fun to dream. So I feel like getting New Year's Reach for myself would be quite meaningful. I don't have them, obviously, and my rainbow-based teams would tremendously benefit from having access to one of the most desirable actives and bodies in the game. Ladroa is definitely something I might have also wanted. Like, I also want both the 9 stars. Like, Ladroa I would definitely want to utilize for their weapon assist, but I at least do have, like, Amatsu's Loot. I do have Fake and Rise weapon. I have Shelling Fort. I have quite a few of the good weapon assists already, so I feel like New Year's Reach might provide more value, but of course, if I get either one, I'll be so happy. For 8 stars, it's going to be Artemis. Artemis is obviously going to be the most desirable option because she is such a powerful leader, and she'll become an incredibly powerful sub. There's no real downside to her at this point in time, and getting her would obviously be quite magical. For 7 stars, Enola is like Wood Alatu, and even though I could possibly benefit from New Year's Horus, I feel like because my wood box is weaker compared to my fire box, it would just add more value overall. Again, these are dreams. I don't really expect my dreams to come true, but it is obviously nice to fantasize about it. And then for my 6 and 5 star cards, I really just picked whoever's the cutest. They don't do anything for me, and I think Leyland is definitely cuter than Ame. SPika is cuter, and Tengu, Joan de Crap, I don't even want to think about that card. So, in conclusion, the New Year's machine is an underwhelming affair if you are planning to roll, but at the same time, there are many high-value cards in the upper rarity. So, if you can monster exchange for any of the 7 or 9 star cards and you feel like it's going to provide significant value to your monster box, that might just be the best approach for this event. And then just do your free rolls and pretend it doesn't exist. I've kind of done that for every year that New Year's has come here. I just do my free rolls and pretend it doesn't exist. But either way, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Do you think it's worth rolling? And if you do, what did you roll? And then if you monster exchange, who did you monster exchange for and why? Either way, hopefully you all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.